let's jump in. Okay. So, hi, everybody. Welcome to our February meeting of the Equity Advisory Group for the Interstate Bridge Project. And how about, can we get our slides up? And we'll run through our preliminary notes. All right. So, closed captioning is in English and Spanish. English closed captions are available within Zoom and YouTube. Users can follow this link to view both English and Spanish captions in a separate browser window. Go to ibr.news/captions. Next slide. So just some reminders. We encourage EAG members to turn on your video. We love seeing your faces. Please say your name when you begin to speak. And if you experience technical difficulties, please contact program staff at 360-329-6744. Next slide. Our public input instructions. There'll be an opportunity to provide brief public input later in the meeting today. To submit input after the meeting, email comments to info@interstatebridge.org with EAG Public Comment in the subject line. Call 888-503-6735 and state EAG Public Comment in your message. For our agenda today, we have an icebreaker. We'll have our program administrator update, our equity updates. We'll talk about the December visioning exercise recap, our equity framework, the Equity Advisory Group January interviews, where we reached out to members of the group, a tribal consultation. We'll also talk about the Vancouver Waterfront Transit Station and have public comment and close. So our icebreaker for today, name and pronouns and affiliation. So it's the first meeting of the year. So let's kick off with something positive. Share one sustainable or eco-friendly habit or resolution you've adopted this year. It could be something you've already started or plan to implement. So looking forward to hearing everyone's green goals. So who would like to go first? So I will model. So Roberta Suzette Hunt, she, her pronouns, facilitator for our group. I'm trying to throw away less food. So that's my big goal. One, make more food that I like, and two, get the portions right. So who would like to go next? Or should I just pass to someone? Vicki.
I knew you were going to do that.
I thought it before, I was like, I should just call on Vicki.
Well, I like your theme. I'm going to try to throw away less paper. That's become boxes and boxes of paper that I like to save, and I'm going to try to quit doing that. Vicki Nakashima, she, her pronouns, and I'm a member of the EAG. So
Roberta.
Ray's next to me. I'll call on him.
Okay, well, thank you. Ray Mabey, Assistant Administrator for IBR. Happy to be here tonight. And he, him pronouns. Dr. Hunt's I've got a little bit of that, but a blend maybe. And it's aligning health and green. One, eating less. so I'm actually consuming less. But they're working on some sidewalks in my neighborhood and extending them so I can ride my bike to the grocery store. So I need to buy a bike, so I don't need to drive. So I'm going to become more of a bicyclist.
Awesome. All right. How about Shane?
Hey, Shane Valley, him. I work for the city of Portland, EAG member, and I'm trying to every year grow a little bit more of my food in my garden. So I probably needed to start planning a few things yesterday, but I'm still working on it. Let me pass it to Erica.
I am Erica McAlpin. I am she, her pronouns, and I am on the equity team for the IBR project. And let's see, I will share that Yamaya tricked me into going into a vegan restaurant when I was in Portland last week. And while it was an experience that I shall never forget, I committed to doing it again in 6 months. So let's just say I will eat a completely vegan meal every 6 months.
Fantastic.
And I'll pass it to Yamaya.
Oh, thank you, Erica. Well, I'm glad to hear that, actually. I'll make sure to take you to really good vegan restaurants. So this is something that I had already started doing a few months ago. But as Shane mentioned, I am committed to grow my own food, and I got me an in-garden tower, and I have over 30 plants there right now, and I'm eating those plants. And it's like, I love when technology comes together with nature to make great things for humankind, and this is one of the things. So I'm really happy. We're eating from it every day. All over our meals, we use some of what we have grown there, and it's looking beautiful, and all the plants are huge and green, and everything is completely organic, and they taste delicious. So highly recommend it. It's named Garden. Thank you. I'll pass it to, let's see, Albert.
Good evening, good afternoon, everyone. Albert Lee, he, him pronouns, EAG member. For me, what we've been doing is trying to consolidate our trips as much as possible, just to conserve energy. And when we're at the grocery store, aside from bringing our own bags, we're also bringing our own produce bags. It seems like a small thing, but it's just all those little plastic bags pile up and they don't ever go anywhere. Barbie?
Thanks, Albert. My name is Barbie Alexander. I use she, her pronouns, and I represent the Port of Portland. And one thing that I did was I finally bought the bullet, and started using my iPad. I am, for all my notes, I'm a writer, so I write copiously. I go through about one of those little notebooks every 2 weeks. Because I write my thoughts and I journal, and I like to take notes and go back and review and synthesis. Regardless to say, I have a Rubbermaid full of little paper notebooks in my office. My husband said, I cannot believe it. You finally done it. And so I think that I'm going to keep a lot of paper out of the landfill, plus be like 7 times more organized because I just click a button and there's my IBR notebook. So I would highly recommend it. And I hope that eventually I'll offset the carbon of the iPad. And I'm going to call Aiden in.
Good evening, everyone. Aiden Gronauer, they, them, or he, him pronouns. Let's see. This is a really good question, Dr. Hunt. I think for myself, I've been trying. I am an omnivore, so I do eat both meat and veggies. I wish I could be a vegan, but just can't do it yet. But I've definitely reduced my meat intake this year. Pretty much no red meats and stuff like that, and reducing other meats to try to help the environment. So hopefully I can keep it up. All right, let's see. I'm going to pass the mic to my friend Pat.
Good evening, everybody. Pat with Constructing Hope. And I'm kind of in the middle of everybody. I started a garden last year and I love eating from my garden. And like Roberta, I tend to go out and buy food and I don't eat it. So I end up throwing away a lot of food. So I am stopping buying food that I won't eat immediately and making sure that I'm going to buy things that I'm going to eat right away. So less garbage. And I will pass it to I think it's not gone. Is it Shania? Shannon? Okay, I can't read.
Is it Shona?
Shona.
Yes.
Hi, my name is Shona. I apologize, I'm off screen for the moment. I'm trying to gobble some food down.
Get you.
My name is Shona. I'm on the EAG. I go by she, her pronouns. And we do have a couple of, we have several fruit trees and fruit bushes, and we have a couple of garden boxes, but we've committed to growing more food this year. So we just today purchased 4 more garden boxes so that we can be a little bit more organized with our gardening year round. And then we also purchased a food composter that makes the best compost ever. And I also don't feel so bad about wasting food because I feel like it goes right back into our garden when we put it in the compost. So and I can't believe this is happening because my husband loves meat, but we've committed to going 90%, 80 to 90% plant-based diet. And so far, so good, 2 months into the year. So yeah, I'll pass it to, now I'm not gonna know who's gone already. Chandra?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Fantastic. So Chandra Washington, she, her pronouns, and I'm with CTRAN. I am a little bit like Barbie in that I write a lot of things down. I'm looking around the desk and seeing how much stuff that I write. But one of the things that I've done is I have started using clear Post-it notes because when you erase them, they can go in books. They can go into a lot of things. And number one, everyone knows the note came from me. But number two, it's something that I can reuse instead of buying lots of other little colored ones. So that's one of the things that I've done. And I don't know who's gone either. So I know Nikki. Has Nikki gone?
No,
No, I have not. Thank you so much. Perfect timing. I just parked the car. Hi, everyone. Thank you. I am Nikki Chen. I am the business partner for the Office of Equity and Inclusion for the City of Vancouver. And something that I go by she, her pronouns. And something that we have done this year is we attended the city's community presentation on recycling and how to properly throw away our garbage and I learned a lot that we were not doing it right. And so my family and I have all intentionally made changes to how we sort and go through our belongings, or mostly our garbage, or recycle anything. So that's been major, big changes. My garbage is not as full as it used to be.
Yeah.
All right. I will pass it over to John Gardner if he hasn't gone yet.
Well, he might have stepped away for a moment. How about Casey? Or
I think it's Cassie.
Cassie.
Hi there. There's a Casey and a Cassie on with us today. That's fine. I'm Cassie Rippey. I'm the IBR tribal liaison for the program, she, her pronouns. And we're trying to use more reusable containers, not using one-time use packaging, drinks, bags, food packages, that kind of thing. Checking to see if Casey Lyles is back.
We can also, oh, there's John Gardner. Hey, John Gardner, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Happy Monday, folks. Sorry, there's going to be an echo. I can't turn off my computer yet. One of those days. I think the question, oh, John Gardner, TriMet, Chief Equity Officer, pronoun he, him. Sorry about the echo. I'll fix that out. I'm actually moving closer in so I can walk and bike to work. So that's my big 45-day goal. So wish me luck on that. If anyone needs, it's terrible. So if I jump off again, it's only because I'm going to try to reset this so I can not echo and destroy everybody's eardrums over the next 2 hours. So thank you.
Thanks, John, and good luck. That's a big deal. All right. How about Malin?
Hello, everybody. There I am. I pop up by Malin Clements. I'm on the RBR design team for stations, and I'll be talking a little bit later. And what I've done is I'm 3 days into making a full month, the longest February in vegetarian. So anyway, it's I don't think I'm going to go full vegetarian, but I like the 90% rule. So I think that's a good goal, and really enjoy it when you have something else. But it's been a fun journey. Thanks. I at this point, I think anybody who hasn't gone and was in hiding like I was is going to have to come clean.
Yeah, Casey Lyles.
Hi there. Sorry about that. Driving, so couldn't find the unmute button, and I was able to park. So Casey Lyles, delivery manager for the program, and I think I heard the question, what are you doing change to help the environment? Maybe, is that paraphrase? And one of the things we're working on just seems small, but just trying to save electricity when we can around the home, not using as much, turning off lights. And it seems small, but when you look at your electricity bill and it says you're in the high percentile of people that use electricity, that's something I can contribute to.
Good job. Good job. How about you, Salome?
Hello, everyone. Good evening. Salome or Salome. I'm pronouns are she, her, and I am on the IBR team as the community engagement lead. One of the green things I'm getting used to or doing is I am forcing myself to use public transit for the whole year, outside of anything, or for the area within the Tri-County. And so I went a really long time without owning a car and using transit to get around. And so I'm just going to spend time doing that this year as well. So it'll make for longer work days, but I'm hoping to get some fun back into reading on the bus or reading on the light rail and factor in time to pause and stop.
Good job. Good job. And how about Alicia?
Yeah, good afternoon or good evening. Alicia Sojourner. Them, they, she, hers. I'm the Director of Equity Inclusion for the City of Vancouver. And ironically, I just had this conversation with my partner a few weeks ago. So I grew up in a household where we took 2 showers a day because we couldn't come in the house smelling like the outdoors. And that lasted into my adulthood where I would shower at least twice a day. I can't believe I'm admitting it to people out loud. But I now take 1 shower a day. I don't limit myself quite yet on the length of time, but small things, I'm getting there. But yes, I'm down to 1 shower a day.
That's really good. That's really good. It's making me think that my children and their aversion to water is environmentally friendly. So, um, but I love that you do that. All right, and Xander, you, my friend, are our last one.
Good evening, everybody. Xander Arnold, he, him pronouns. I am on the IBR community engagement team. One green thing I'm committing to this year is reducing the amount of plastic water bottles I use. I was gifted a Stanley for Christmas, I'm sure like many, and I'm committing to it. So that's, yeah.
Fabulous. Thank you. And thank you, Yamaya, for this prompt. People liked it. I enjoyed hearing it. So let's launch into our program administrator update. So let's put up the slides, and Ray, you are going to take it away for us.
Yes. So Mr. Johnson is traveling on a little bit of PTO, so he's getting a nice break. And so you get me tonight. Happy to be here. And I'll provide some program updates that are actually pretty exciting. We've had some recent visits, high-profile visits that we'd like to talk about. One, not to bury the lead, is a headliner. We had the Secretary of Transportation, Pete Buttigieg, come to visit the project. That is massive. We got the Secretary of Transportation coming to the program with curiosity and interest in a way that was really welcoming. He did a roundtable Monday night on February 12th, and then we took him on a short bridge tour the next morning. And he shared that this program is a phenomenal effort that's in alignment with the Biden-Harris administration's transportation goals and objectives. And quite frankly, he spoke about the program in a way that made me think he'd been a resident or been around this program for the last 10 years. His grasp of the issues was quite amazing, his ability to share them back with us. That visit is very welcome. One, I think we recognizes that we just got the US DOT grant of $600 million. But we actually have a grant in right now with Federal Highway Administration for $1.5 billion. So hopefully that's an indicator of support coming from his administration. But that visit and Administrator Batt, who I'll talk about in a minute, that attention that we're getting from DC is really, I think, in large part due to the success of the program and partners in finding a common understanding of how to move this program forward. And the work of this group is a key part of that. Now that roundtable that was held on that Monday night, there were many that were able to attend, but it was a fairly small group. And I want to give special thanks to Dr. Hunt, who talked about the contribution of this group and the great work you're doing and have been doing the last few years. And so I want to say thank you to Dr. Hunt for that. It was well received. We also had a visit earlier from Administrator Batt from Federal Highway Administration. So the administrator from Federal Highway Administration, he came out to take a bridge tour as well as a short program presentation. He too expressed great interest in the program, talked about the value of the environmental process, but also getting to construction and knowing how important it is to get in the ground while not skipping steps. He had great interest in the program, its approach towards climate and equity, and again, just echoes the support that we're getting from our folks in DC. Next, we had an event with Senators Murray and Cantwell. They requested a bridge visit. And so more than happy to provide a short tour of the mechanical room. And we also did a roundtable with local partners. There was media invited to the event, so there was lots of press around this. and TV coverage. But the purpose of not only just to be able to meet partners and take a look at the bridge, but it was also to celebrate that $600 million mega grant that I mentioned, and to show support for the continued development of the program and our future funding opportunities we're seeking from FTA and Federal Transit Administration. Now, there was a quote from Senator Murray I'd like to just read real quickly. She said she's ecstatic about the mega grant, but she's working hard now to make a strong case for the additional federal funding we need to finally get this project over the finish line. We need a strong award from the Bridge Investment Program that she helped write in the bipartisan infrastructure law, and we need to get that capital investment grant, the FTA grant, funding for the public transit components to make sure the new bridge will truly be accessible to everyone. So a great quote and great support from Senator Murray. We had attendees that included the mayor, Mayor Ann, Juliana Marler from the Port of Vancouver, Sean Donahue from CTRAN, Matt Ransom from RTC, and Bob Carroll from IVW. So a really good opportunity to meet and work with some great supporters of the program. But while we're meeting with those folks, I think we did just as important work with an equity roundtable that was hosted on the 7th of February. It focused on strategies for equitable community engagement. And I was able to listen in while I was doing some other things around the house. And it was very interesting as a panelist shared their reflection and advice on how public infrastructure programs like ours can meaningfully connect with communities who experience barriers to engagement. So it was live streamed and it's available for folks to watch as it's recorded and available on our website. It did include some panelists from our CBO mini grant program cohort. So it's nice to leverage those extra connections that we're making through that effort. But we've also been busy with some industry engagement with a small business roundtable that discussed the program status, how we're with key partners, and our work with the legislature. We also met with APEX and CRDC, the Columbia River Economic Development Council, and presented on the program our initial thoughts on draft thoughts on packaging for construction, our recent work on workforce capacity that's just getting finalized, and our approach to DBE contracting. There was a healthy Q&A in that event as well. And looks like about 40 people attended virtually while 16 were in the room. So lots of good engagement there. And then we met with the Association of General Contractors. There was a program tour that we hosted and showed them the size and magnitude of this program and with a brief presentation as well to get them engaged. They're the folks that are actually going to be building it for us and helping us achieve our equity goals and DB goals. So getting them on the ground to understand what the project is and how they can engage, and future workshop is key. And then we did some additional community presentations with the Vancouver Innovation, Technology and Art School, and engaged with some 5th grade classes with about 44 students. It's really fantastic when you get engaged with the youth, get them excited about what we do and get their interest. Those efforts pay dividends. And then maybe lastly, I'll talk about the Bi-State Tolling Subcommittee. This program won't set the toll rates. The two commissions set the toll rates, the Washington Transportation Commission and Oregon Transportation Commission need to agree. And to facilitate that agreement, they have established a subcommittee made of 2 members each to study and set toll rate policies and toll policies and rates, bring those back to their full commissions for approval. And they met for the first time last week. They'll be meeting, I believe, monthly for about 6 to 8 months as they do their work. And we will have those links to those sites or those meetings up on our website. They are publicly held meetings, and there's lots of good work there to talk about. Like I said, those rates, discounts and exemptions, and other factors with tolling. So exciting work starting there. Next slide, please. Perfect. So I think this is my last slide, but this is just a note of where we're at. We're looking at publishing the draft supplemental environmental impact statement this spring. And we know that there's a 60-day comment period that's really important. And we want to get ahead of that and share this site that's going to be on our website that talks about how to comment. It's important for folks to know how to comment, how to actually access the document to read it, and how to provide us feedback. So we're trying to prepare the community and our partners on how to engage this, when it's going to be available, and the best way to make meaningful comments so that they are addressed as we move forward after that public comment period. So this is a must-watch page for everyone because we need that input. And with that, I think we'll go to the next slide. And I can pause maybe before Erica comes on to see if there's any questions.
No, I think. Nikki.
Hi. Can you tell me a little more when you say that you were engaging with the youth and talking to them about what was the intention behind that? Was that just to get them excited, or do we have ideas and game plans moving forward on how to incorporate them in this work?
Yeah, I think it's just to get them engaged and excited. I think, that age, looking at the length of this program, they may be a bit young to enter into apprenticeships and then journey out, but we do know that we need people, a workforce in the trades, as well as in STEM to work on programs like this. So it's just an opportunity to connect with that program. I think that's something we'll be looking forward to doing in other venues with different ages of students to get them excited about something that's happening in the region and something they might see themselves in.
Thank you. Well, it looks like no more comments or questions. I do want to give a shout out to Vicky and to Shona, who also came to the round table with Secretary Buttigieg. And so I really appreciated looking across the table and seeing both of you. Yeah, I really appreciated also just sharing from a variety of folks about the work that we are doing here. So let's move on to our next, unless Vicky and Shona, do you all want to say anything before we move on?
Well, it was an honor to meet him and to hear he was so genuine in his commitment and welcoming. He was approachable and knowledgeable and interested in what we're doing and about the committee. So I appreciated that opportunity.
Yeah, likewise. I thought it was a really well put together
roundtable, and I especially liked the comments made by our tribal leaders that were there. It was very important to have them there and have them front and center, and for the secretary to hear their statements, I thought were really important. Thank you for the invite.
Thank you. Salome?
Hi, all. I just wanted to add to the answer Ray gave around our youth press conference and what that engagement actually looked like. So we did have an outreach of the youth, and we did talk about workforce, but this is really aimed at a lot of the youth that were journalism students. And so we treated it like a real press conference. So they did come and do a tour prior to having the virtual press conference. And so a lot of the youth really appreciated that they were able to do a whole program area tour similar to the one that you all did, and help them generate questions that they would have. A lot of them seemed to have questions focused around climate and equity. And so we had our program administrator, Greg, answer those questions in the live stream. And, you know, when it came to how this was put together, our media team and our CE team collaborated with youth who have engaged with the program in other ways to really design what this would look like for them. So it was really collaborative in that respect of they got to choose like the process, and they chose their own questions. Like we did not prompt them with questions, but answered their questions as we would with any other media outlet. And it was really great. We had a majority of the youth that participated were actually under the age of 19. And we had youth from both sides of the river. And so it was really great to see not only just, you know, some college age students, yes, but also high schoolers that live in the intersection. So some BIPOC high schoolers with living with disability, but their focus is journalism and promoting journalism. And that event is going to shape how we do an upcoming engagement, which is a multilingual press conference and a bridge area tour. And so if you have any multilingual outlets that you all are aware of, feel free to forward them our way, because we're trying to just get as full as we can with that. And we are providing interpretation at that venue in terms of the tour and the virtual session. So thanks, Ray, for taking on the question, and happy that I could add some more information.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, so let's bring up our next slides. So we have our equity updates with Erica.
Thank you so much, Dr. Hunt. And I'd just like to reiterate again on behalf of the program, thank to each of you that participated in these events. We ask a lot of you with your time and commitment. And so we just want to say thank you again. As we move into the equity updates, you might recall that in December, we did a visioning exercise, and we want to share the information with you that we received from that visioning exercise. Many of the comments fell into 4 buckets, and 2 of them are here. So the first is avoiding further harm. And some of the comments that we heard were to emphasize reducing the program's environmental footprint, address concerns about tolling's impact on low-income individuals, focus on rectifying past mistakes, such as I-5's impact on the landscape, facilitate accessible public commentary for diverse communities, address food deserts and foster community connections through grassroots initiatives, emphasize the importance of diverse property purchasers and historical awareness, as well as aspiring to eliminate environmental challenges and create iconic connections. Under the category of community benefits, we heard you all would like to align specific elements with CAG values and priorities, ensure sustainability both in cost and inclusiveness for a 100-year lifespan, explore solutions to eliminate the burden for vulnerable communities, clarify service area impacts and distances, explore equity-centered progress and include historically marginalized communities, connect the program vision to rewilding and nature, and again, address food deserts and foster community connections through grassroots initiatives. We could go to the next slide, please. Another area we touched on was workforce equity and economic opportunity. And the feedback that we received there was you would like to create an aspirational program addressing equity and climate framework guidance, discuss ranking current elements in terms of priority and impact, explore the future of communities in the program area after construction, envision the bridge as a symbol of community pride and involvement, and simplify building code requirements for flexibility and development. And then the last category in which we took comments was mobility and accessibility. You all would like to see connect transportation and communities with the bridge, make the bridge accessible to all modes of transportation, prioritize access to goods, services, and opportunities, not just for cars. Consider the broader impact beyond I-5, including local streets and Delta Park. Improve biking and walking connections on the bridge. And finally, prioritize accessible parks and facilities for the disability community. Next slide. So we've also made some updates to the equity framework to reflect, and this chart here reflects the most up-to-date information. We want to make sure that we're keeping you and the public informed. One of those additions is related to the CBAG. So language has been added to reflect this advisory group. And you can see that there's a box added to figure 2 to ensure that we are reflecting all of those groups accordingly. I'll give you just a moment to look at that. Next slide, please. We've also made some additions to the equity framework, which was language added by the tribes. And some of those adjustments were language added after tribal consultation was other historical harms, include forced removal of Native peoples from their homelands, the Oregon Constitution's prohibition of Black people from entering or residing in the state, termination of tribal governments, and exclusion of Chinese Americans from basic rights, including property ownership and voting, reservations, redlining, and other housing discrimination language as well. And we do have Cassie Rippey here, who is our tribal liaison for the IBR program. And I'd like to open it up now for if you all have any questions about any of the changes in language that were made or about tribal consultation in general. Okay.
Someone contact me. I have a question just because I had someone contact me about the tribal information. Is there any place that Cassie's information would show up? Because I referred the person back to the office, back to, I can never say her name, Salome's office.
Okay. That should be one way to get the individual to Cassie, but we can also put Cassie's information in the chat or make sure it gets directly to you, Ms. Pat. That way you have it to give to the individual in question.
Thanks.
You're welcome. Ms. Vicky.
Is there a reference under the tribal about the sovereignty issue that, you know, the sovereignty that government to government relationships?
Yes, ma'am. So one of the specific changes that's been made in the equity framework calls out the fact that tribes are sovereign nations and consultation with tribes is not the same as engagement with members of the public, including Indigenous persons. It's a different process.
Thank you.
Welcome. Okay. If there are no other questions, I'd like to close out the equity update by thanking those of you that participated in our one-on-one interviews that we had in January. We received some valuable feedback that we will be passing on to the program. And I just want to thank you very much for taking that additional time to talk with Maya and I. It was a pleasure getting to know some of you and meet you one-on-one and have those in-depth conversations. And thank you so much for your service to the EAG. I'll pass it back to Dr. Hunt.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. So why don't we, we're going to pass to Clements, to Malin. We're going to pass to you for the Vancouver Waterfront Transit Station.
Sure. Thank you. And actually, a colleague of mine joined, and he's presented to you before. I think he'll maybe, Nolan.
Yeah.
You're on. You can start and with the overview of the urban design stuff, and I'll chime in when we get to the station.
Absolutely. And I apologize for missing our icebreaker. Wanted to say it's good to be back here and see all of you. And we're really excited because I think this is a higher level of design thinking than we've probably discussed with the EAG so far. So while there are a few things that you'll recognize from previous meetings, we're excited to be able to launch into something that has a little bit more meat for you to dive into. So today we're going to focus on the Vancouver Waterfront Station, and then we'll visit with similar level of detail the Hayden Island Station, the Evergreen Station, and the Expo Station. Next slide. I had we had this slide prepared. We always like to remind you about the lenses through which we're thinking that frankly you have given us. And the next slide includes these the equity framework. We keep this in mind, and we expect you to look at our work product through this lens and then give us feedback. Erica reviewed your thinking from the December visioning, and so I really am not going to spend any time on this because that thinking I think is more fresh and relevant than this slide which we prepared a few months ago. So it's here just to remind that we're looking through this lens, and we expect you to, or we're excited for you to give us feedback with these objectives in mind. Next. So just as a reminder, those 4 station areas are among 7 focus areas that we have for the program. It's a way for us to break down into some relevant geographies, the different program elements, how they relate to one another, and how they relate to the existing communities through which this program will pass. Next. So this is the 7 throughout the program area, and the one that we're going to be focusing on today is labeled E, the Vancouver Lower Downtown area, and specifically the Waterfront Station. Next. Next slide. Yeah, and so philosophically, the focus areas are really looking at what is distinct about a particular area of the corridor or of the city of Vancouver or the city of Portland, but also what are the program elements that are passing through it? How do they relate? Be they local streets, the station, station plaza, highway elements, active transportation, and we're really trying to look at that in a comprehensive way so that you all can see how will the built environment that we're proposing compare to what's there today and to the aspirations that we've established for this program. Next. This is the graphic that I believe you've seen from last summer. It was our first pass at being able to put some of those program elements in a very, very diagrammatic way. These fat arrows that just show, which side of the freeway is the light rail line on. Generally speaking, where might the station go? How does that relate to the new development on the Vancouver waterfront? That's really the level of detail that this inquiry and this diagram was able to look at, the extension of Main Street in blue there. And what we'll do today is start talking about the relationship between the orange box and within that dashed red area, which presents some choices that the program will have about where the station might be located and what are the implications of that. So with that, I'm really happy to pass the mic back to my colleague, Malin, who I think this is your first meeting him. He's been doing transit design for many, many years, and we're really excited to have him leading our transit design efforts.
Yeah, thank you, Nolan. And so, yeah, this is, so we have moved the ball down the field a little bit from this slide, and I think everybody understands that this is it's a long game to figure everything out, and that in the way that best meets a whole variety of needs. Our role on the greater team is focused on the transit station and the urban design around that, all is sort of one collective thing that works well. And, you know, we like to think we've learned to be aware of the issues, but it's great to have these sort of groups, because there's always something that we hear and learn that we can make the project a little bit better and more attentive to being a great asset to the community. So if we move to the next slide, and then I guess the next one. So we've been managing a bunch of different information and getting to the point where we're going to select a preferred option. And I think, you know, the project will always have some range of things that change over time or get refined, but we're trying to use a method to combine both the quantitative aspects and qualitative aspects that really make the most defensible station to move forward with. So I won't dwell on this stuff. We can come back to it, but this is just sort of giving you an idea as we're trying to figure out how to best evaluate these things, and then use both this group and the community advisory group and to get to the point of that station. So if you go to the next one, it gets to be the more sort of fun stuff. So this is that next level of detail from that diagram that Nolan showed you. So to orient everybody, north is to the right. That's actually sort of upper right angle there, but so it's flipped clockwise from that image before. And so what we're showing you here is a straight on view of the top level of the platform level of the station and the station locations. And we have 3 different station locations. It's really a combination of their location and their configuration. And the third element is really the program components. We know a lot about some program components because they're the same as other stations, and other program components are going to be unique for this project because some of the stations are different than other stations in the TriMet light rail system. So to kind of orient everybody here, that the I-5 southbound, the new lanes are in the gray there, and we're showing the single level bridge option because it's a little bit wider than the double level bridge option. So when this was done, there's still officially 2 bridge options on the table. So we want to make sure we're trying to not to have too many options to show everybody. So we're using the one that's a little bit more conservative. So, and then straight up through the middle, there's the Burlington Northern Railroad. And that's really the primary sort of existing feature that we have to work around to make a light rail station here work. So what you're looking at is the orange in the middle. Those are the side platforms. So that's a certain configuration that a lot of people are used to riding Max around. You come in, you have to decide which side you're going to be on to get on the train. When you get off, you generally just walk to the exit where you see it. But the unique thing about this location is because it's coming off the bridge on the left over the Columbia, it's going to be a lot higher in an elevated station than most stations. And I'll have a slide that shows you that later on. And then there's this station here, and then it goes off to the right and to the Evergreen station, which we'll talk about in another meeting. So to the left, you can see some development sites. The Port of Vancouver is working on, I think a lot of people have seen what's going on over there, a lot of new exciting things. And that's one of the several things that this station needs to serve. So the two locations, really, there's two configurations for the stations that straddle over top of Burlington Northern. So the platform's up above that. And then one that slips below, south of it to the left on this screen, and avoids being over Burlington Northern. So when I mentioned there's a lot of things that we're working through now, is understanding the issues of being over Burlington Northern Railroad, combined with the opportunity to have an entrance to the north side of it versus the south side of it. So there are a lot of these things that we're looking at, including access to station entrances at the location. So I'll move on now to the next slide. And this is really what matters to most people using the station. This is really it's a plan view, which and it has all these elevated stuff are in the dash lines that's above your head. But this is really what matters if you're walking around on the street here. And so this location, straddling Burlington Northern, has an entrance on the right-hand side, north side, and the south side of Burlington Northern Railroad. Each entrance, and this is sort of an important thing to note out, generally because most of TriMet's stations have are primarily at grade or really close to at grade, that there frequently is just one elevator, because there's almost always another way to get to the platform if the elevator is out of service, a ramp. But this station is going to be 70 feet in the air, and I'll show you that in a bit. So the program at this point, we're really advocating the entrances all have two elevators, because we're not expecting people to walk up 70 feet. Those of you in the icebreaker that said physical fitness was one of your goals for the year, certainly it would be nice. A lot of us would like to walk up 70 feet to the platform, but we're expecting most everybody will use the elevator just as common use. But certainly anybody with any special needs and physical needs, it certainly will need to use the elevator at this station. There will also be a stair that that climbs up there. So the station on the entrance at the right is right adjacent something called Phil Arnold Way, but that really is a one-way street that's primarily or largely going to be used as the on-ramp for SR14. And then the other street to the right of the slide there, that's going to be the SR14 off-ramp. And then on the south side, that we're thinking is probably going to be the primary entrance for this station. So there's a number of other things on here, the little symbols, and these, I'll explain them on this slide, but then they're common to the other stations. And for the most part, they're fairly consistent. There's a little blue automobile icon there, and that represents just the need for all sorts of people coming on and off out of cars. So that could both be individual cars, people dropping or picking up, and taxis or Ubers or cars like that. There's also a bus symbol. We need to remember there's going to be some sort of local bus service here, and that's being worked out with C-Tran as they plan their system to engage this station location. There's the C is the C-Van, and that's paratransit. So that's special need calling, smaller vans that you can order up and they take you right to and from the station. And then across from there, there's a V, and the V is called Bus Rapid Transit, and it's an enhanced bus system. And C-Tran has launched that program. They have 2 operating lines and have more coming. And one of the lines that will be coming is actually going to loop around. It's going to come down Columbia and go right. So there actually is just one stop, and it'll loop around West Columbia Way and then head back north. So we're working with C-Tran and the city of Vancouver to clarify how long the stops need to be and make sure that we're really making for a safe environment for people to get on. And one of the basic principles for transit station design is the principles of crime prevention through environmental design, CPTED, you may have heard. And a lot of it's really pretty basic. It's anticipating being able to have good sight lines, thinking on a dark night, if you're walking around somewhere, it's well lit and there are not hidden corners, you can see where you're going. have and anticipate things like that. So all of these diagrams, even though it's early in the design phase, we're really looking for the location and configuration. We're certainly trying to think about those things, and these meetings are great to get people's input. And we completely realize it's a lot of stuff to take on. So perhaps maybe before I go through the other two options, I can't see hands up here. So, but if anybody has raised a hand, Shona looks like she does. We can try to.
I'm curious about where, can you hear me okay?
I can.
Okay. I'm curious about where the parking is located in some of the maps that you showed us, because obviously it's a transit center. So I couldn't see it. It was kind of small.
Okay. Well, I'll talk a little bit about it, and then and maybe Ray or somebody can jump in too. So if we could go back to the site plan. So one of the program components, and that's a great way to kind of talk about, there are a number of things that are in flux. And the ultimate goal, of course, is to get everybody to ride transit to and from here and not have a lot of parking. The reality is there's probably a phase where there will need to be some parking, and there is a park and ride component for the program. And so we're looking at two options, and combined with some options that's going to serve the Evergreen station. But there's an orange dashed line to the right of the screen that line could either go over those streets or just be contained to the area just north of the off-ramp. So that's a designated spot for a park and ride facility. And that relates to the question of where the station might be, because one location might be easier than the other to connect directly with a bridge at some level. So the anticipation is that the park and ride facility would be a structured parking. We have also looking at a location underneath the new bridge, so that if you look carefully down there and under right in the bottom of the middle, there's another orange line. That's another location. That location is turning out to be much more complex because of the structure of the bridge. Getting it in there, it would require rerouting Southeast Columbia Way. But officially, we're still going through the process of evaluating that. Any?
Yeah, if I can add to that a little bit. We are studying different park and ride locations and what they mean to ridership. We have heard from the city of Vancouver, though, that if it's not needed, they'd be happy not to have a park and ride location in their downtown. It's a traffic generator of single occupancy vehicles, a lot coming in to come and ride. And we're seeing that, I think, in cities and with high capacity transit of not wanting park and rides in their downtown areas because of the traffic it generates. So we're looking at this, finding ways to accommodate that. We do know that there's a lot of development here and parking associated with that development already that's not associated with this, but we're looking at what that means and evaluating those different locations, like you said.
Great.
I might just add, I'm not sure I heard Malin comment, the third possible location for the waterfront park and ride being studied is just west of the four-way intersection. So if you're looking at the screen now, it's at the very top of the screen, in just see a very white corner of it. You don't see the dash line around it, I don't think.
Yeah.
So opposite of Columbia Street, from there to the would be to the top of the page. So 3 potential locations for a waterfront park and ride.
Great. So I think what I'll do is move through the other 2 stations we have, and then we'll maybe collect some more comments, but certainly anybody just chime in and if they can. So back to the shared screen.
I'm sorry, I think Nikki, before we move, she had her hand up.
Okay.
So maybe before we move, we'll answer that question. Go ahead, Nikki.
I could wait. I was sorry.
Okay.
I can wait.
So the next slide, concept B. So this is in the same location, but it's a different configuration for the platform. It has a center platform. And so that, and then we can go right to the ground, the next slide now. And so what it means is there's less flexibility for where you can locate the elevators and stairs. And however, when you get there, you come straight up to the platform and you can go right onto the platform. So there's no need to cross the tracks. So the reason we're looking at this too, generally this is a preferred option because you don't have to cross these tracks. However, as we're learning more about the site, we're learning to see whether it is or isn't advantageous to have some flexibility where you put that the elevators and stairs. So we'll be looking at that. And one certainly is the environment underneath this, making sure there's enough light and air and that it doesn't feel ominous to come in underneath something. It's turned out we're not really that worried about that condition here because the station is high enough above your head that it's going to be pretty open. So other than that, all the elements here really are pretty much the same. So we can go right to the third option, which is a different location. So as you can see, the station is shifted south in order to stay out of the Burlington Northern right-of-way. And also, the original attempt was to perhaps see about getting an entrance that is on the south side of West Columbia Way and directly touching the waterfront development. Now, as it turns out, this is a case where we're starting to find more constraints when we work between the existing, well, it's not existing development, but it's permitted development that the city of Vancouver is working on there, development site B, and the bridge. And there's this requirement on the bridge to have a 10-foot clearance around the edges so they can easily maintain it and survey the bridge regularly for that. And there's a whole system for doing that, and it's a pretty significant issue. So that's why we show the little chamfer out of that one platform. So getting a station to fit in this location, we're saying is possible, but it has some constraints. And one of the constraints is there's really only room for one entrance on the north side there. You really can't get another entrance. The platform would have to be a little bit narrower at that very far end, but it still fits within TriMet's requirements for platform width. And instead of a regular full public entrance at that end, where there's a little number 3 you can see there would be an emergency exit there there's room for that to wind down, and that would meet the requirements. There are unique requirements for transit stations, which are a little bit different than buildings, but the idea is the same, that you calculate how many people would be in a place at a certain time and how much time you need to get them out of that area to a place of safety by a certain time. So we're trying not to get caught up in the weeds of those details, but we need to be aware of them to know which locations are generally feasible. So in this location, we go down to grade on the next slide. And so this really makes a singular main entrance that would be at the activity hub here for this station. And so you will note, so these are the 3 options in configurations we're looking at now. What we're not looking at, we had to rule out at this point, unless we can find a reason to make it work, was the center platform location in this location. And the reason is, although there's only one platform in the middle, the overall width of everything ends up being wider, and it didn't really fit within that constraint of the development site B and the edge of the single level bridge. So at this point, we're not carrying that forward, but we're still collecting information. So it's still possible that we could find a way to make that option work. So from these, I'd like to go to the next slide, and this a lot of color here, and so I'll sort of explain. On the top is concept A and B, and then the bottom is the third concept C. So what you're looking at here is a cross section, right through the Burlington Northern. And so I think a lot of you may have been over there, and if you can recall, Burlington Northern's up on a berm. And so that's the height. And so that's the main reason is, well, the two reasons the station has to be so high is that it comes from a guideway that's the same as the bridge going over the Columbia River, but also it has to clear the Burlington Northern here. So what you're looking at is, although it's a section through the ground, on the left and on the right, you can see the stairs that wind up, and we configured them in a triangle and plan, so that's why they look this way. And the blue, it would be the elevators going up to the platform, and the platform deck is orange there, and we're showing that thickness because that's just diagrammatically the thickness of the structure. We're sort of indicating weather protection here, but in general, we haven't really gotten into the question of weather protection. There's been talk, of course, because we're high up in the air and it's near the river and so forth. The assumption is, and what we're going to be proposing is there'll be much more substantial weather protection than you're used to on sort of at-grade light rail station. This is really going to be more like a station you'd see elevated in Seattle or Vancouver or other elevated stations. So, and on the bottom, so everything shifts there. So the whole view sort of moves to the south, and that's why Burlington Northern is there. And so then the last slide, and then
Malin,
yeah.
before you leave that last slide, I just wanted to let everyone know this is looking east. So if you had your back to the Vancouver waterfront development, and looking beyond this would be Apple Tree Park and Fort Vancouver. So just to orient you.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks. And then the next slide, and we can go back and forth as much as possible. In some ways, this having seen the earlier slides, this may seem like it's more useful, but we wanted to go through the diagrams of just basically how the stations are figured out first. So A on the left is the side platforms, the side platform stations with the entrances at each end, the blue towers there, and going over Burlington Northern. The one in the middle is the center platform, and the one on the left is where the platform shifts to the south, and it's entirely over, it's not over the Burlington Northern. It is, interestingly enough, the station itself is over the street below. And on all these things, and in any case where you have platforms that are over roadways or railroads, there has to be throw protection and stuff to keep people from throwing things on the road below and so forth like that. Sometimes those cases are clear and there's lots of other precedents, but it's interesting how many times that you come up with things that actually haven't happened before, and you just sort of need to use good sense and best guidelines to address the situation. So, and maybe the last thing I'll mention here, it wasn't really it has certainly something to do with the station, but you'll see this teal colored ramp in the background of all of these, and it was in some of the plans too. The shared use path that is part of the project. Of course, it also is, way up at the height of the bridge as it comes over the river, and people obviously want to get down to the Columbia River, and so that's been a big design challenge to figure out how to do that in a way that's comfortable to ride up more than down, and gets down in an area. So there are a number of scenarios doing that. We are looking at, we have looked at, since that's up in the air, does it make sense to bring that connection right to the station entrance at a higher level? Generally right now, the thinking is few people would be riding north on that shared use path and want to get on the station to go back south. But we are trying to make sure we kind of think through all possible connections and make sure we don't miss one that is desirable. So that's a lot. And you will all get comments to their chance to look at this more and follow up with questions. But at this stage, we're certainly, we have some prodding questions here, but most likely it's just general awareness and questions you have about where we are in the process, and things that you want to remind us to be aware of.
Is it okay I go now?
It is okay, Nikki.
All righty.
Unless your helper's going to help with this. Does he or she have a question?
Oh, this is Denzel. He does not have questions. He's just sleepy and wants mommy. He was not cooperating. He was yelling in the background. I do want to say trigger warning that my question is could bring up concerns for anyone. So I want to say that in advance. But as someone that has lived in an area prior that has had something like this, have we taken into consideration safety guards around something elevated so high and those that may want to cause harm to themselves or others? I have been around that, and it happened more often than you would think.
No, that's a very good question, a very sensitive thing, and it's sometimes called means prevention, and we've done bridge design, and it's a real tricky issue, but we haven't talked about it specifically on the station, but generally it would be part of the sort of general design, good design practices for any elevated station. But not only here, it's also will be for the shared use path and any areas that the public can get to on the bridge.
Thank you. I just felt like I needed to say it as someone that has been around for something like that.
No, it's an unfortunate thing to have to be aware of.
Aiden?
Yes, thank you so much for that great presentation. I want to know, between the different concepts that you listed, is there one that's kind of ideal for our community with disabilities as far as mobility issues, if there is an emergency that happens and folks need to evacuate? I saw you had kind of 2 elevator options and stuff like that on both sides, so that would be 4 elevators. But is there one of those designs that leans more towards safety and an evacuation than others?
Probably the center platform, in a lot of ways, is the preferred option, because it consolidates activity in one place for a whole number of reasons, including SEPTED. It's generally nice to have all the eyes in one place, and to be the clearest sight lines. TriMet prefers it when they can have it, because it eliminates the need to cross tracks. I think that is generally what we're leaning towards as the preferred option, but we just have to be careful as new information comes around, and be aware of what the options are in case we need to sort of circle back at some others. That might actually, is that it? Casey looked like he was going to have a question.
Well, and Malin alluded to this, but I'll just reiterate, this won't be the last time you see this station. We'll have at least one more, if not multiple more passes at progressive levels of detail. And this one really is about these big picture configuration concerns. So if ideas come up along the way, you can send them to us, or bring them up at the next time that we discuss the station.
Great. Well, thank you. Thank you very much. And we will move towards public comment, which we are very early. So Yamaya. So I think we're very early for public comment, and so I doubt that there's anyone in the queue. I will read the instructions in relation to that. So for comment instructions through Zoom, please use the link located in the meeting description on the YouTube meeting page or on the IBR EAG meeting webpage. Commentators will be allowed to turn on their webcams, but will not be allowed to share their screens and will be removed from the room once the public comment period concludes. By phone, dial 253-215-8782, meeting ID 986-0940-5983, passcode 701376. Dial *9 to raise your hand, dial *6 to unmute yourself. The facilitator will call on participants to provide comment. Please provide your name and affiliation, and commentators will be given 2 minutes to speak. Comment instructions. Sorry, let my dog out. To submit comments after the meeting, fill out the comment form on the program website or email your comments to info@interstatebridge.org with EAG Public Comment in the subject line. Call 888-503-6735 and state EAG Public Comment in your message. All written comments must be received prior to 48 hours in advance of each upcoming meeting in order to be distributed to advisory group members. Comments received after that point will be distributed to members in advance of their next meeting. All right, so I'm assuming we don't have any people for public comment. Is that correct?
None at this time.
Okay. So we are finishing very early today. So if you will give the poll for our meeting evaluation. And our next meeting will be on March 18th from 5:30 to 7:30. If you'll take down the slides. So to close out in our usual fashion, 3 takeaways from our time together. I know one for myself is just so much work is happening and so much has happened since we started. It's like real. John Gardner?
Yeah, hopefully folks can hear me now. Sorry. I think it's just really encouraging the visit by the secretary last week and how much staff put in and just the committee members able to share the story and the fact that, you know, it feels like we're gaining some momentum. So that's just really appreciated.
Chandra?
So I think that we can speak to the impact that people have been very cautious about thinking about how we're designing this space and how people will work in the space, thinking about people with disabilities, thinking about just the community as a whole. So I'm really appreciative of people thinking about that and then putting those things into practice.
Good. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for all of your work. And we will see you all on March 18th. Do you want to say anything, Malin, or are you just saying bye? Okay, thank you. Thank you for being here. All right. Bye, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you all.